Hey, what's up guys? Last year's Sony Xperia 1 was a beast of a flagship phone that offered a lot of features that you couldn't find elsewhere. Now a year has passed and it's time for part 2. Literally. I'm Will for GSM Arena and this is our Xperia 1 Mark II review. Before we do anything else, let's get this name straight. Now this isn't a monarch called Xperia 1 II. Officially, it's the Xperia 1 Mark II, though the 1-2 also has sort of a ring to it. Its looks are typical of a Sony phone. It's tall and narrow, straight-edged and angular. It's made from Gorilla Glass 6, with an aluminum frame. The edge of the phone is sharp and bold, and it offers some nice grip. You get full IP68 dust and water protection too, so if you accidentally drop the Xperia 1 in water, you could breathe easy. Sony's top-end flagships are the only ones out there with 4K displays. This one is a 6.5-inch OLED with a cinematic 21:9 aspect ratio, and rather than a cutout for the selfie cam, it's housed within a wider top bezel. With a 643 ppi pixel density, you won't find a crisper-looking display out there, and you get deep blacks typical of an OLED. The Xperia 1 Mark II is missing one of the hottest features among flagships this year though, a high screen refresh rate. This one is a normal 60Hz panel, but colors can be tuned to be quite accurate. As far as color settings go, there's a special creators mode that can make sure that the videos you watch, even streaming ones, will look as their creators intended, without unnecessary color or contrast boosting. And there is support for HDR content from all major sources, but we found something quite odd. Despite the screen's 4K resolution, content from platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime is capped at 1080p. This may be solved in a future software update. As far as brightness goes, we got 370 nits maximum with the manual slider, and a boost of up to 600 nits when in auto mode. Not the brightest we've ever seen, but not bad. Many phones with OLED screens make use of an under-display fingerprint reader, but Sony is sticking with a side-mounted one here, housed within the power button. It's well placed and fully functional, unlike on some previous Sony devices. The Xperia 1 Mark II has another feature that you don't see much of these days in flagships. There's a notification LED up in the corner to let you know when to check the phone. Continuing with quote-unquote retro features, the Mark II has a good old 3.5mm headphone jack, which after a couple years absence has made it back into the design. Sony claims stereo crosstalk here is 20% less than with a USB-C adapter. So how about the speakers? Well, the Xperia has a stereo speaker setup, and both speakers are front-facing and have been increased in size. The top one doubles as an earpiece for calls. Quality here is quite nice. With the onboard Dolby Atmos feature turned on, we measured very good loudness and lively mids and highs, though not much as far as bass goes. You can keep plenty of music or other media on the device thanks to the 256 gigs of UFS 3.0 storage on board, which is expandable. The Xperia 1 Mark II's interface is pretty much stock Android 10, with some Sony enhancements and proprietary apps here and there. Most of the functions are provided by Google, including the gallery and the video player. However, the Sony Music Player is still here. Other custom apps include the brand new Photography Pro app, which acts as a souped-up manual mode for the camera. It gives you control over an array of camera features, and they promise RAW shooting is coming with an update. And the Cinematography Pro app has been upgraded. It gives you in-depth controls over your video recording and now includes a 25 FPS mode, a level meter, an intelligent wind filter, and a new 2K HDR slow motion mode at 120 FPS. Another one of the updated features is the Game Enhancer app. It acts as a hub for all of your games, and provides control over things like screen recording, touch area customization, and notification controls. As a new flagship, it's no surprise that the Xperia 1 Mark II is powered by the latest Snapdragon 865 chipset. As such, it has excellent CPU and GPU performance, and support for 5G network speeds. Benchmark scores are pretty typical for a flagship these days, maybe just a tad behind competitors due to the higher res screen. The phone does tend to heat up during prolonged sessions, and we saw a bit of thermal throttling, but nothing too significant. The Xperia 1 Mark II comes with a 4000 mAh battery, which is not particularly large for the class. There's support for Qi wireless charging, which is convenient, and was missing on the last Xperia 1. Since we got this review unit ahead of release, Sony advised us to wait until the next software update before we test the battery life. We didn't want to delay the entire review, so hopefully in about a week or so, we'll let you guys know our final endurance rating in the video description below. The Mark II ships with an 18-watt wired charger in the box, but supports USB power delivery up to 21 watts. With the bundled adapter, we were able to charge the phone from 0 to 46% in half an hour. Charging to 100%, however, was not very competitive, taking almost 2 hours with the provided adapter. Let's move on to the cameras. The main cam is 12 megapixels in resolution. Sony has opted to use a relatively low resolution sensor on the main cam to optimize readout speed. There's also a 12 megapixel telephoto with 3x zoom, a 12 megapixel ultra-wide cam with autofocus, and a 3D TOF sensor. In daylight, the main camera captures some of the best photos we've seen from a phone. They have vibrant, true-to-life colors, natural-looking fine detail, and well-controlled noise. The way this camera renders fine details is a joy to observe at 100% magnification. Dynamic range is also good, though by default, the photos are a bit too contrasty for their own good. Portrait shots are taken with the main cam, and they have fairly good subject separation, with the occasional glitch here and there. Dynamic range is a bit narrow in these shots, so watch out if you have a backlit subject. The ultra-wide cam's images are a close match to the main ones in terms of overall rendition, including colors and dynamic range. It's not quite there when it comes to noise performance, but detail levels are excellent for an ultra-wide camera. This ultra-wide also has autofocus, and that lets you get close to subjects and still capture sharp images while getting that wide perspective. It isn't meant for macro shots or anything though. Now on to the 20 megapixel telephoto, which outputs 12 megapixel photos, probably because there is some cropping involved when zooming. Oddly, these are a bit soft and hazy with faraway subjects. But in closer range, it produces photos which are nice and sharp. Color reproduction is consistent with the other two cameras, and dynamic range is excellent. In low light, the Xperia 1 Mark II has some very competent performance. Shots from the main camera are again sharp and excellently detailed, with nice color saturation and low noise. The contrast is quite high though, meaning you do get some blown highlights here and there, and shadows come out way too dark. If you want to get better output, the Photo Pro app with Auto HDR enabled is the way to go here. It's not strictly a night mode, but it does give you a boost in shadows and midtones. There's no saving those highlights though, and there is some penalty in sharpness. Even without using the special app, the ultra-wide-angle cam does really well at night, with detailed, well-exposed shots that have nice color saturation. If you zoom in low light, the telephoto camera is always used, and you get sharp and detailed shots with low noise and nice colors. The Xperia 1 Mark II's selfie cam is 8 megapixels, with fixed focus, the same as we saw previously from Sony. It takes nice photos though, they're detailed, with accurate skin tones. Dynamic range is a bit narrow though. 4K video at 60 FPS isn't supported in the regular camera app, but you can achieve it with the main cam if you switch over to the Cinema Pro app and everything that entails. Still, the quality is great. Now let's move on to the ultra-wide cam, which captures well-detailed 4K footage at 30 FPS, with likable colors and wide dynamic range. Zoomed 4K clips are visibly soft, though they do maintain pleasing colors and fairly good dynamic range. Stabilization is available in all major modes on all three cameras. It's excellent, with smoothed out walking and panning. And here's a demo of the new intelligent wind filter feature, which works both in the Cinema Pro app and the regular camera app. It makes a dramatic difference in the audio quality of your footage. So that's the Xperia 1 Mark II. It's a really nice package with an elegant and waterproof design, a high-res OLED screen, front-facing stereo speakers, a flagship-grade chipset, and a powerful camera system. But does the Xperia 1 II offer enough to stand out from its flagship compatriots? I think yeah, it does. There are a few nitpicks here and there, like the screen's lack of a high refresh rate and just average brightness, and the slowish charging. But there are plenty of features here that you just won't find anywhere else. The Mark II is definitely a worthy successor to last year's Xperia 1 and deserves a recommendation, especially if you can find a better deal than the launching price of 1,200 euros. Thanks for watching guys, stay safe, and see you on the next one.